Welcome to today's episode, where we're going hands on with Azure Speech. And as usual, I'll first be discussing some theory, and then I'm going to walk you through a real practical application. So, what is Azure Speech and why you should care? Well, Azure Speech is part of Microsoft's AI Services suite, and it brings together four main capabilities: speech to text, text to speech translation, and speaker recognition. So for speech to text, that is transcribing spoken words into text, which means you speak into microphone and you get the text out. Perfect for meeting notes, call center analytics, or turning lectures into searchable documents. You probably saw this already in Microsoft Teams. Then we have text to speech, which converts text back into natural sounding voices. Things for the usage about accessibility tools, virtual assistant, or customer support bots. Then there is speech translation, which allows you to do a real-time language translation. For example, if you have a call in English and then hear the other side in Spanish. And then speaker recognition. Well, the speech models can be also trained to learn the person who is speaking, and that is useful for security and personalization usages. Now, how would you do this? Well, for example, a call center might transcribe every conversation for compliance. In Microsoft Teams, you can transcribe every call if you want to get a summary later. A healthcare provider could turn doctor-patient conversation into structured records. Car manufacturers use it for in-car voice commands. And also for visually impaired users, you can use text to speech to help them have their accessibility. So there is a lot of applications possible for these for services. And then I will now show you how this actually is done. So let's start with the Azure portal. So in the Azure portal, you always, of course, start with Azure AI Foundry. So I will go into my Azure AI Foundry. Then I will show you where to find the endpoints and discussions about Azure AI Speech. So I will go to my models and endpoints. I will then go to my service endpoints. And in here, the first service endpoint is Azure AI Speech. So in here, you see the keys, you see the endpoints. This will be important later for when we are going to be using API, Azure AI Speech API, to do speech to text conversion. And then in here, you can see what are all the options that you can do with Azure AI Speech. Now, next to Azure AI Speech, you can also see that there is Azure AI Translator and also Azure AI Language. These are similar but different. So a translator is actually integrated into speech. You can see this a lot with Azure AI. It from time to time they update the services and they convert the services. They add new services, merge the services, but maybe leaving the old services for the consumers that are still using them. But Azure AI Speech is here. And now, how do we use it? Well, I have here a speech analysis app. Yes. So this speech analysis app allows you to convert your speech that you get through microphone to some other language. So, for example, what I'm going to do, I will say, okay, I will select the language to be converted to French. Now, this application assumes that you are speaking in English, and I will click Start Recording. And now I will say, how are you? Stop recording, and you will see that the speech API was able to recognize what I said. And now I will say, how are you? And then you see the translation in French. So this is a very useful feature, and you could use this and to translate from or to convert the translation into a voice, and you could use also AI speech to custom speech to generate a customized voiceover over your French translation. So, how do we do this? Well, this is now the application. The application has a backend and frontend. And I will first start with the frontend. The frontend is a React application. It's a very simple application that has just some starting information. Then it allows you to select the language. And then it has a button that handles the click. And then it has the outputs. Now, how does this actually work? Well, when you click a button, the recording starts. The button turns red from green to red. And we click a button again, then the recording stops. And then how this recording actually works? Well, in here it says, so if we are recording, then we stop. If we are not recording, actually we are using the media devices and get user media to do the actual recording. So this is a way that you can do recording of a sound in your browser. Yes, I will not go into details of this, but the important thing of this is that when it outputs results, it outputs them into WebM format. However, the Azure AI Speech requires the WAV format. So what I do before sending the data to the backend, actually there is a function that converts the WebM to WAV. So this is a function that converts the WebM into WAV that is acceptable by Azure AI Speech. Yeah. So this function actually converts it and then send it to backend. The backend is here. There is an API endpoint analyze audio. This analyze audio do some checks if what we got is really audio, if it is under certain size, and it is 120 megabytes for now for a file. And then it says, okay, now as I said, the input language is US, but it can be also the frontend could be also adapted to have a different language as an input language. Then the file that was received is saved, and then we call the recognize from file function with the US language and the target language. And this function actually calls the Azure Speech API and converts the file. So what does it do? Well, what does it do? There is a Azure Cognitive Service speech package, and this package has speech SDK as an API endpoint. What does it do? Well, you set up certain things. You set up the recognition language, the target language, the audio config, so you can use either microphone or the file name or the file. And in this case, we are using the file. And then we set up the recognizer, and then we start the recognition. Then we wait until we get some result, and then we see if the result is correct. Then we have the original text, means the text that was recognized from the input file, and we also get the translated text. So this function actually does both. It does the translation and the detection. And we then send this original translated text to our main. We log it, and then we send it back to the front end. Now there is a fallout here. If this recognize fails, then we fall back to basic speech SDK recognition that just recognizes the text and doesn't do translation. And that is it. That is an application, a backend and a front end that will allow you to convert your text, your speech into text and then to translate it. Thank you and see you next time.